for our thing out there. Oh, that's our doorbell for dinner. In the other room. Right. So again, fairly tidy, fairly well set up. It'll be interesting. Oh, that's right, with concrete down here, so we don't have to worry too much about the weather tightness. Slightly loose here. What you do with these is you pop this plastic cap off. Well, you don't even have to do that. You can take the screws from the bottom. Ah, no, you do have to with this one. Pop the plastic cap off, take the screws out from the top, and then with the hardware, tighten the screw at the back edge into this, and that will solve for the little bit of wobble that you've got there. Still's reasonably good order. Leaks. Ooh, okay, there's some evidence of one. Is it current? Is the great question. So I'm expecting that to be a nail hole or some such, which has gone slightly wrong. So obviously not a copious leak, but enough that you're getting that little bit of positive pressure causing a bubble. Okay. So this is your secondary access, so you actually have some leeway. Now, one could make the argument for fire separation, which would mean that wouldn't be legit, but I think that would be a pretty poor argument, really. Good reinforcing. Fundamentally, pretty happy with our insides. Now let's start looking at our outsides. Again, you've got these rubber strips for the car doors. Okay. Not sure which light this one's rolling. The switch actually feels a bit notchy. Might be, no. Two. Okay, so we had a downpipe here at some point, then they covered that up and ran it back down to, in fact, a new main down there. Unless I'm much mistaken. Oh no, it was 80. Okay. Again, downpipe. Now, trellis does not mean go to town and grow things on it, or at least pick your things very carefully. Now again, access hatches all over the show here. That will hark back to the days when there was no connection. Now I think this is still connected. I haven't seen rainwater tanks or anything else. Come to our gas. So gas has got our 50mm, it's got our chain, seismic restraint, it's got our regulator, and it's got our shield. So that ticks the box. And you can see gas piping down here, copper, up and in. Again, no fundamental issue with that. Our detail work on our recess there, pretty good. You've got a drip edge, again pretty good for the era is probably the best way of putting it. The thing that we don't like to see is when the plastic comes straight back down onto the edge of the flashing, because then what you tend to get is water can weave its way back up and hydrostatic tension pulls it back up the hole, which is not so good. Now this one here is the odd exception. In theory you could get groundwater into there. In practice you're not really highly likely to, so I wouldn't stress too much about it. But if you desperately needed to, you can either put a new plastic one in. It'll be a bit tricky here because of the back, or you can just build a little moat around it with mortar. Is the cheapest way of solving them. Outdoor power points, always good. Again, fundamentally pretty good through here. Now this is a panel product, unless I'm very much mistaken. If it is timber, it's so well installed that it's not funny. Very predictable, but I think it is a panel product, which probably means it's villa board, which is Hardy's. Now, here's where we get just that little bit more interesting. With multiple retaining walls, this vent. Now secondary gas. Now, the gas bottle's fitted outside. It's not able to get groundwater on it. It's copper through, it's not a temporary pipe. Technically that should be filled now, but you'll probably find that one's alright. Sometimes it depends on the hob, sometimes the gas pressure from a small bottle is not sufficient to run all of your points at once. It's fascinating that we've got this built around here, and a little bit scary in and of itself. Okay, so as far as our detailing goes, interesting with the cantilever, but you've got good clearance right round. The wiring there might be just a little bit bodgy, I suspect, so it might be worth just unplugging and removing that, or calling up a Sparky and saying, can you check it please? See, with the trees going down, there's, wouldn't it? More gas. What's this one supplying? Gas up and in there. Must have outdoor furnace or some such. So this is all fairly new and swanky. Highly recommend staining the timber. It's always worth the effort in my estimation. Now, you've got a gate there. You can actually argue that that is very much secondary access, so you don't need to put balustrading around any of this stuff. And the gate, as long as the gate prevents access, oddly enough, fencing doesn't have any regulations in terms of height. I think you'd find this is largely compliant because it's only infrequent maintenance access out here. Okay. Yeah, even the butt plate down there. Okay. Yeah, so I'm expecting some outdoor gas appliance, but so vent there will be for a dryer. It's got the flaps, that's good. Again, drip edge is maintained. That is just your vent pipe for toilets. It'll go up in the wall there and up and through. Down to 60s there. Basically, because you're in a salt environment and a heavy wind environment, keep the paint up. Keep washing your building as well. Twice a year in this environment is recommended, and to be honest, more won't hurt. Now, roof line. We had a wee bubble in here, which is fascinating because they put flat roofing there. So fundamentally, the most likely cause of the leak and bubble in this part of the ceiling is going to be lead head nails. One of them's likely moved. See if I can put a moisture meter on it, see if it's wet. I don't think it is, it's not showing the signs of it, but so you see here, we talked about the positively charged particles coming down, so you at that place there where you're just about going, it's going to be time to think about at least replacing this sheet. I think when you do replace, you'll probably do the whole thing, so you've got those little bits of paint bubbling and whatnot. It's not that wonderfully far off that you are going to think, let's replace the roofing. Highly recommend when you do, just do everything at once. I know it'll be expensive, but it will keep everything looking consistent and hence hard to date. And hard to date is good. So again, here's our gas. Go. Where do we go from? Gas around and over. The mystery of great mysteries, oh Babylon. Multiple gas lines, so if you got gas here was for your gas fire there. This one out here, a little bit weird. They might have suffered from lower pressure or something and hence put the second setup. It's just quite weird to have 5 gas bottles on a house. Right, and of course a little fountain. Just outdoor storage. Cool. Electricity as well. That'll be the above the 2 meters. Again, the thing you do worry about bluntly is when you get bits like this. Always worthwhile, again, getting an electrician just to check over those few little things. Now our structure up there, so you've got the sun awning that pulls out. I'm not going to test that because sometimes they don't like it much. Our structure of our deck up here, actually that's quite good. So firstly, we're bolted onto the wall rather than cantilevered. Secondly, got a post supplying at least some support. Thirdly, you've got these rakers coming down, supporting at the middle. So it's a cantilever, but not reliant on the weatherproofing between the building and the deck. Oh, it is, but not to a terrible degree. Now, concrete pathing and everything else out here, actually looking pretty good. These things here are for your guy ropes to anchor that, I would suggest. Handrail, we talked about handrails and lowness and whatnot before. You can also see you're retaining. Now, bear in mind, over time, timber in contact with ground will break down. It's just a matter of when. I would get a sparky just to check through each of these bright lights. Pretty cool that you can have that sort of stuff set and ready to go though. Again, another pinion grabber for that. Your goldfish. Pond's actually quite a big one, so it's going to be semi-self-maintaining with your weed and everything else, but yeah, of course you want to make sure the water level stays good, and things like keeping some water movement in there is always going to be